And I quoted, "The law has no compassion and justice is administered without compassion." A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Here I, Nitish Mahajan, student of University Institute of Legal Studies, Chandigarh University, and Vice Curator for the third Indian Law Conclave by Alexis Group, welcome you all in this session on legal framework on cybercrimes in India and beyond. Cybercrimes. Cybercrimes or computer-oriented crimes are the crimes that involves a computer and a network. The computer may have been used in the commission of a crime. These days, the crimes like harassment via mail, net trespass are very popular. So in order to curb these types of crime, government enacted IT Act 2000 and brought some changes in IPC 1860. It brought many changes in every sector. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce you all with the speakers of today's session. The first speaker for the day is Mr. Amit Vyas, founding partner of Vertices Partner, having a great knowledge in commercial disputes, arbitration, bankruptcy code, and IPR. The second speaker for the day is Dr. Karnika Seth, founder and chairperson of Cyberia. The third speaker of the day is Dr. Sangita Laha, associate professor and dean faculty at NLU Ranchi. And the fourth speaker of the day is Nipun Saxena, advocate at Supreme Court of India. So our speaker will give their views on the same for the next 5 to 10 minutes each. Then I'll ask some questions, then the delegates are free to ask questions on this topic. Over to you, Amit, sir.
Thank you, Nitish. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
So, very well. Thank you, Alexis, Adhrit Foundation, the organizers of such a wonderful interactive session that I'm sure we're going to have here. And well, we are all aware of the serious challenges that our society at large is facing from the sudden rise of cyber crimes. And although the term is not clearly defined in this sense, but what are the kinds of offenses? They are all there for us to see. And the IT Act 2000 read with the rules, intermediary rules 2011, lay down the broad foundation of regulation of online content. Let me begin by sharing with you a personal litigation that I was really very close to, and where we defended and we acted for uh, an online multiplayer game called 4G, which is uh, which is seen as an alternative to PUBG game. And what are the practical experiences that I've had in the course of prosecuting the remedies on behalf of my clients? What I realize is that insofar as the cyber crimes in India are concerned, now the difficulty is that you have these social media platforms who are the intermediaries. Now, the intermediaries have, as we all know, what we call as the safe harbor provisions. The safe harbor provisions give absolute immunity to all these intermediaries that are largely what we what we know as Google, Facebook, and Twitters of the world. Now, what really is happening here is this, and I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see a lovely documentary called The Social Dilemma. But what essentially my experience was in this whole litigation was not only a reluctance on the part of these intermediaries to take down the online content which is clearly defamatory, b the whole situation brought about after the Shreya Singhal judgment, in which the Supreme Court did strike down 66A, upheld 69A and 79, but read down 79(3). The effect of the Supreme Court judgment in the Shreya Singhal case is broadly this, that as long as the intermediaries who are used as a medium for commission of these cyber crimes, they could be online defamation, It could be online stalking, phishing, cyber extortion. But as long as these intermediaries comply with the government norms, comply with the laws, they have safe harbor provisions. They cannot be prosecuted. Now, when I see that the makers of the game PUBG, various kind of baseless allegations were leveled against them, including that the game 4G itself was conceptualized by late actor Sushant Singh Rajput, which on a plain reading of some of the social media chats of the actor himself, dated as late as last week of April, in which he made it clear that I'm just learning to scratch the surface of online coding, and his own family members not making any such claims, but conspiracy theories being built that yes, these certain persons, they had vested interests, and therefore, which included a Bollywood actor as well. Now, when we were faced with this kind of situation, and let me share with you what my practical experience was, because this was the last matter that I worked on this. We filed a complaint with the cybercrime Mumbai police, and I must say, uh, we, we we got a very patient hearing. But I was surprised to know that even the officials, the senior officials at the cybercrime, they are at a loss to understand how to stop an online content which is being made against you today, which is available in the public domain, to stop it. Because these intermediaries take protection under the Safe Harbor Provisions 79 of the IT Act. But in our case, when we got an order from the Mumbai Civil Court that yes, these contents are ex facie defamatory and these cyber crimes are leading to a enormous loss of reputation of the makers of PUBG, of 4G game. In fact, they are contributing 20% of their revenues to the army. So we civil court granted us the injunction. Civil court said that yes, this is online content is defamatory, and therefore these intermediaries should bring it down. But there started the real struggle, as you say in legal profession, the real struggle starts after you get a decree in your hand. How do you execute this? So we got the order. We again rushed to the cyber cell. The cyber cell again intimated these intermediaries to bring down the content. Now, here comes the technical part. Under 79(3) of the Information Technology Act, an intermediary is bound to act upon a court order or an agency of the government notification in this regard to immediately bring down such defamatory content or such content which goes against the interest of an individual which has a reputation in the society or organization in that sense. But there is no timeline mentioned. Okay, the intermediaries have their own mechanism to then sniffle and check the veracity of these orders. They will ask you 10 questions. They will say which of this content is defamatory. And the difficulty is that when you get an order from the court that this is a defamatory content per se and therefore it should be brought down, the court is not at the time of ad interim relief bound to give you a relief to also pull down this content, because that essentially is a mandatory injunction which you don't get at an ad interim stage. Now, if you don't get a mandatory injunction at an ad interim stage, all you're left with is to take the order, go to the cyber cell, write communications to these companies, and what do? So in our case, Twitter India filed an application contending that they were not even an intermediary. And we were all surprised that how they can shun away with their liability and responsibility with being an intermediary. And as we speak, we have been served with similar applications filed by Google as well as other online intermediaries. Now, we therefore wrote a representation to the IT Ministry to METI, and we brought this to their attention. We met the senior police officials that in essence, the Shreya single judgment, which struck down 66A and upheld 69A and read down 79, it should not be used in the sense that these cyber crimes go unpunished and the police officials themselves feel helpless or powerless, to implement such orders. So we have therefore recommended to the ministry Information Technology, METI, we made a representation that you look, you please modify your rules. Your rules are framed in 2011. We are now in 2020. A lot of time has gone by. There are draft rules, but those rules need to be have a relook at. And you specify a timeline that if I get a court order, if I get an order from the agency of the government, at least in 24 hours, you'll bring down these content, which is becoming a absolute menace, in today's times to uh, harm anyone's reputation. One another very important aspect in relation to the cyber crimes that I might like to bring to the notice of all the listeners of this is that the government of India has an agency called CERTIN, which is the agency which is responsible for monitoring and implementing the policies of the government. And mind you, they are sending notices to all the companies that are involved in collection of data. Many of them are educational institutions. Many of them offer online courses to working professionals, and the level of security which is required to protect the data is sadly not up to the mark in any of these organizations. And because I can tell you, because of on the basis of our communications with the government officials, the officials of CERT in, that they are going to implement this in a very serious manner. And they did confirm to us that these notices are being issued, and the companies will not be heard to say that it was taken away by way of a cyber attack and the data of the students was exposed, because under 43 of the Information Technology Act, these companies, their promoters, would be liable for damages. And in many of such cases where the students are based in US and Europe, there is an absolute risk of these corporations, their promoters, being sued in multiple jurisdictions across the world. And just like Indian courts would have the jurisdiction to try offenses, where the computer resources in India, even if the accused is outside, in the similar manner, they would have the jurisdiction. And I'm afraid that we will see a lot of such notices being issued by CERT in to various companies. Some of them we are advising presently as we speak that no SDPI, sensitive personal information, can be leaked. Sensitive information has been defined in the rules framed by CERT in 2013. Those particulars do not include information which are available in the public domain in the sense of your email address or your mobile number, but anything more than that in terms of um, the bank history, the financial transactions history, the sexual orientation of a person, or anything other than the email and the basic mobile number information which is available online at the click of a button. The exposure to any such information will lead to a very serious action by CERT in also, as well as there's a risk of being prosecuted under the provisions of 43 IT Act uh, in India as well as outside India. So these are the broad contours of the cyber crimes, the way I am seeing it in practice right now, as we deal with such matters and advise our clients. And I must tell you that the communications that we have had with the government of India has been very encouraging. They have taken on board our suggestions. So we have recommended that the government has to bring in changes in law to make it clear that once there's a court order, once there is a communication from a government agency, unfortunately, in Shreya Singhal judgment, the Supreme Court talks about the two ways in which an online content can be directed to be removed. One is by a court order, a civil court competent order. The second is by an agency of the government. When I find out, I do not see any notification by the government. So therefore, when I meet the cyber cell officials, when I meet the government officials, I tell them, why is there no person designated as a uh, as the person, as the officer or the agency whose instructions these nodal officers have to comply? Because my experience in discussing this with the senior officers of the cyber crime is that, sir, what do we do? if we write communications to them, they again ask us questions. Now, defamation in India is a non-cognizable offense. If it is a non-cognizable offense, then as a sequitur, the police cannot take into custody the person who has emanated or who has retweeted any such online content which is defamatory. Yes, Delhi High Court has said that a retweet also amounts to a publication, and therefore, if you retweet a content which is per se defamatory of a person or a company, then you are exposing yourself to a criminal liability in civil as well as criminal law. So we have recommended to the government to make it clear and to give directions to these entities that the users should be notified that any such act by which they retweet an information or forward information which is per se defamatory will and can land them in a situation where they will be tried for any of these offenses. And we are expecting the government to take into cognizance. And as we have seen, I'm very happy that the government is taking a serious note of the situation that has been brought about. The government has used its powers under 69A to block certain content, but that action can be taken only for national security issues, friendly relations with the states, and such other national level issues, which will not cover a situation where tomorrow if you or I or someone that we dearly love is being defamed on an internet or is a victim of cyber stalking or is a victim of any such other cyber crime, then we need to strengthen our laws. And I'm happy to note that the government has called upon uh, the senior employees, the senior management persons of these intermediaries, uh, be it the summons issued by the parliamentary committee or any other government agencies who are looking into the role which is being played by them. And we must not forget that if something is for free, then you are the product. So wherever we are seeing things which are accessible to us, which are available to us free of cost, then we have to take note of the fact that we are the product. It is our data, it is our information which is being traded online, and therefore we also need to be very careful in terms of sharing information so that it does not become subject to any kind of cyber crimes. And we must also not forget that in the event that there is any situation where we, God forbid, if we are in a position where we have to actively prosecute for any of these crimes, then there's a long road ahead because of the fact that uh, offenses like defamation and all are non-cognizable. The police officers, I have met them at the highest level, they convey their helplessness. The government needs to therefore bring into place a mechanism and appoint agents. In fact, there's one more aspect I would want to address, that all these intermediaries, they are required to appoint an appropriate officer who will act as a nodal officer, who will comply with the government requisitions, with the requisitions from the police department. But my experience again is that they do not appoint it, and they take a stand that look, if Google India or Twitter India is here, they will take a stand that look, we are not privy to this. We are, in fact, 10 years back, I did a litigation in Bombay High Court where the High Court called upon Google to disclose the name of the unknown blog which was defaming our clients just before their IPO. And there was a direction from the court, two directions. One was to disclose the identity of these persons, and second is to block the information. And on both these counts, the stand which was adopted by Google India was that look, we are based in India, the servers are based in US, it's the Google Inc. that can take action, we can't take any action. And subsequently, um, to our good fortune, Justice Chandrachud, as he then was in Bombay High Court, had the occasion to appear before him, and Justice Chandrachud made it very clear that this will have serious consequences. The court observed that this will have to be acted upon, and it was only then that the content was blocked, but the name of the users was still not disclosed, and they took a stand. So the stand that is being taken, which will be a biggest challenge in dealing with these cyber crimes, and especially when it relates to these intermediaries, will be that their Indian entities are still continuing to file affidavits in the courts of India that we are not bound to comply with any of this. We are not bound by Indian laws. please make our parent companies parties. And when you make their parent companies the parties, the biggest problem will be that they are based out of India. You cannot really secure their personal presence before the courts, and this situation is going to snowball into a very major situation unless the government really takes upon some very proactive steps to amend the 2011 intermediary rules and make it clear that any orders that are passed by the Indian courts have to be given effect within 24 hours, and depute agencies of the government who can really call upon them, these intermediaries, to act upon their requisitions, and these intermediaries have to be called upon to appoint nodal officers who are there to take cognizance of communications given by the police officers and orders passed by the court, so that these cyber crimes can be stopped. Because I remember one particular thing that I really saw in Social Dilemma, and which is so much true, that a fake news travels 6 times faster than a genuine news, because a genuine news does not attract as many eyeballs as the fake news. And therefore, if there's a fake news, it will have 6 times multiplier effect every time. And every time it is being retweeted, it is being republished. Uh, we know who are the entities who are monetizing out of this. And unless the business of uh, encouraging people to indulge in online defamation, because today anyone and everyone can get on the internet and defame any of us without there being a fear of getting arrested. Because there are people out there, I don't want to name them, they are openly saying that what else the police can do, because it's a non-cognizable offense. And even if you get an order from the court, which will itself take 7 to 10 days, even thereafter, if these intermediaries are asking you questions as to we are not intermediaries, we can't implement this, I'm telling you, 45 days after getting the order, still the online defamatory content in relation to 4G game is available on the internet. If you can look for it on YouTube, on Google, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So therefore, there is a will on the part of the government to act upon it, but we need to strengthen our systems, because India is moving towards the next step in terms of digitization of everything and anything, and CERT-in is going to play a very important role in complying with these regulations. So I think I may have overrun my time a bit, but I thought I'll share with you all the experiences that I am seeing as a practicing professional in Bombay. And uh, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it up. But I think I'll conclude. I think I've got a reminder that I am overrunning my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experience. Now over to you, Karnika, ma'am.
Okay, very good afternoon to everyone who's listening today at the Indian Law Conclave. And I'm pleased to be here today to discuss this very important subject of cyber crimes and what India is facing today and beyond. Much pertinent today because we are at a stage where we're just, crossing the post-COVID lockdown time, and a lot has changed from what was there pre-COVID times. You would agree, I'm sure you would have read about it, that cyber crimes during this time specifically have increased beyond 86% as per the MHA figures. And I was fortunate to start witnessing this field and working on this field way back in 20 years ago, when IT Act was probably just enacted. And when it got enacted in year 2000, it was just a initial skeletal legislation. We were just experimenting on, what will be good for India. And did take up INCITRAL, model law as a basis, and we recognized, say, digital signatures as at par with, handwritten signatures, or documents being, electronic documents being at par with the hard copy documents. There was a lot to be modeled on that model of INCITRAL. However, the provisions, when we talk about cyber crime, and there were a few provisions which were common, like, hacking was addressed in that, and there were certain other provisions like data, theft. But the main parts, a lot of important aspects which got added in 2008, like, for example, banning child pornography, While there was already a provision for prohibition against sending any kind of explicit content, there were new provisions to address video voyeurism. No MMSs could be sent, and anything which is um, against national security, something which boils down to becoming cyber terrorism, was addressed in the new provisions which got added in 2008. So India, and after that, if you see from 2008 to today, a lot has again changed, and we have come across newer issues in this whole regime. For example, we were addressing fake news. The government still is grappling with how we need to curb fake news, and what kind of technical, I would say, manpower or technical resources have to be pulled in, or even legal, a framework which will work in this space. And was fortunate to be a part of the consultations with the Ministry of Home Affairs, where we were culling out various provisions which will work to the advantage of the country, how we can curb this issue. Technical means like DNA photo hash mechanism, and other means like facial recognition systems which we are using today. Now AI will be hugely, I think, a big resource to tap on, because a lot needs to be done in this space with robotics, and with the data, I would say analytics, and AI. That is the technology which will, I think, rescue a lot of these problems and be a solution to them. So we are at the helm of affairs, where we are looking into data analytics, and how we can use the same in this process. And then I also would like to share, it was a very interesting experience for me, and I went to Heartron. I'm one of the mentors there, where a lot of innovation is happening. And I've seen the robotic, I would say, small toys for kids, drones being made for mapping the whole city. And the way the technology is progressing, it's quite positive. And I think with these newer technologies and times, we will be able to build stronger and more robust smart cities, because that is what is now going to be the new time and age, where we are not only just addressing a small cybercrime, like maybe a pity, like a an app hack, or something like money being lost from a particular e-wallet. Those are issues, definitely, but looking at the larger picture, there is a lot more which needs to be looked into, apart from just data thefts or small crimes. The whole country, the whole nation is something that we are worried about also, apart from the general citizens. And I've also looked at, the how do we protect our borders and frontiers. I was again fortunate to be a part of the VIF task force, where we built, certain policies and recommendations on how we can strengthen our army, on how we can on borders maintain a strong technological and manpower footing, where trained resources and trained technical infrastructure could be deployed to safeguard the borders of the country. So a lot is being done in that space also. And we are all looking at digital India, and how the whole COVID has changed the as to the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we are in the times when cybercrime is not just a small dimension anymore. It is a huge dimension. It is affecting everybody. We are all living with technology in and out. And so much so that it's become like a biometric footprint for everybody. A phone number or an email has become so indispensable, because so much of it is, the whole world is kind of connected with the same. So whether you talk about nation as a whole, or globally we are all connected. And new technologies like video conferencing or other means have basically brought us to a wholesome global village. And the problems of one nation are no more problems of only a nation. They are becoming international problems. So the need for trans-border, I would say, cooperation, uh, inter-border cooperation, where a lot needs to be done on the convention. We are no more, right now, we are not a signatory to any cybercrime convention. And in my experience of the matters which I have handled before various forums, I have dealt with a lot of international matters, where you would see that the hacking has taken place from one country into the other. And if that happens, you see, there's a lot which needs to be collected in terms of evidence. So if you see electronic evidence, it may be in a server in a foreign country. How do we get the server from the foreign country to give us that evidence is very crucial. And a number of times, what happens is that this data which is there, you need a subpoena, or you need a MLAT, to get that mutual legal assistance treaty mechanism, or a letter rogatory mechanism, and that can take years or sometimes months. So how do we get the data timely? Because the time, if we don't get it timely, it will be erased or it will be deleted or not available. So that is a huge problem in terms of cybercrime. It's something that like when we have dealt with man in the middle attacks, or when we have dealt with ransomware attacks, I have dealt with these cases where I have seen that getting the data from these social media platforms or from a particular server or a service provider abroad is very difficult, to get in India. And thanks to the PDP bill, which we are now expecting, but then again, the new PDP bill has a lot of lacunas which we need to be addressed at this point of implementation. So if we are getting a mirror copy in India of whatever data is going abroad, then will that be easily procured to put convictions in place or not, is something again a challenge. Will only having a mirror copy in India suffice? Because there's so much sensitive data, there's so much non-personal data. Non-personal can be also company related data, it can be trade secrets, it can be a formula of a particular product, it can be in any IP form. So looking at all that, or a database of clients, it could be anything. How do we safeguard that? So now the government is now planning not only the PDP bill, which will protect the personal data of people, and the nuances which will go into that, the modalities, but also non-personal data, because now non-personal data is equally at risk, because everything is in the digital media. So the government is working on that as well. So the issues are many when we come across cybercrime. It is not only data and being hacked, data being hacked. There is cyber stalking happening. There are trolling problems which are happening, and a lot of women or children becoming victims of any kind of, say, sexual harassment. It could be even bullying. In schools, we've faced this issue. So the kind of problems which you're facing are many, in fact. So if you see the number of issues, I would rather look at it from this point that yes, commercial, personal, sensitive data is one issue. Cyber stalking, cyber, harassment is another issue. Thankfully, we have the POXO, Act in India, which takes care of any kind of sexual harassment meted out to children, or grooming, selling their harmless pictures by morphing them on websites. Now that's a huge problem as well. Sexting, all these are new terms. Revenge porn, but they're all crimes which are prevalent in India. So with as regards children, I've worked a lot on working with NCPCR, where we culled out a guidebook also for investigators, that they use to convict such perpetrators of crime. And the investigators can look at the various crimes which are there, and how we can understand what crime and which ingredient of which crime, offense is made out. So a lot is being done on children protection, even by the Supreme Court. A lot of strict directions have been given to take down the kind of content like child porn. And in fact, there is a lot which technically the companies are now trying to do. Apart from putting filters, there is also government endeavor, that how we can put due diligence guidelines on to the intermediaries, to make them more accountable, more responsible, while the social media platforms also realize that this is a grave issue, and they are also making efforts to put some self-regulatory practices in order. So from that prism, if you see, that is another set of issues which we are grappling with. Third set of issues is obviously, as I said, cyber terrorism and protecting the nation as a whole. And fourth set of issues is the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech vis-a-vis invasion of privacy. So somebody wants to speak his mind. There's so much happening in terms of defamation matters today. And defamation, I have personally dealt with the cases where there is a client who has been defamed, whether it's a public figure or if it's an organization, and certain takedowns have to be done, where social media needs to collaborate or cooperate, either in terms of becoming a witness or they're made a party, and the takedown orders are given. So I do agree that in such cases where the client goes to the court and wants a redressal, he may be able to get the redressal. But what about those who cannot? And there's a huge population of people who are willing to, get this takedowns, but then they can't spend on the whole litigation, nor do they have the bandwidth to do so. If it's one or two posts, they just try to delete it or try to block it. Nothing happens, they remain quiet. But that's not something which we call justice. So if we need, to bring justice to every citizen in the country, we definitely need a very responsible public grievance officer by all these social media companies. They fail to have anybody designated in India, which I think they must. It's high time in the day when they really need to start redressing the common man's problems. And that's how they remain accountable, they remain transparent. And speedy justice is not just for a few who can actually opt for it, but it should be made affordable for everybody. That's what I feel is essential in the country today, with so many millions of people on social media and not being able to get their redressal. So that's something which is a matter of concern. Certainly it is. And if you look at the kinds of issues in employer employee frauds, a lot has increased in terms of data theft, particularly in the WFH time. The work from home scenario, a lot of cyber crimes have happened where data has been, taken from companies and used on private laptops or siphoned away. And that's been a concern for a lot of corporations. So a new paradigm. We have also helped companies build policies in this time and space, because IT law compliance, social media law compliance is something which we all need to also inculcate, apart from IP policy of a company or an employer policy of a company. That's become something like a must. So the policy in terms of company, in terms of country, I was fortunate to take part in the cyber security policy being framed by the National Cyber Security Coordinator of India, where we were working on what are the systems we need to put in place in terms of protecting the country and bringing a good, robust cybersecurity policy in the country. That's also very essential. And I think government has done a good role with a lot of new policy measures, which are going to be now, coming into being in, very soon, with the new PDB bill also and the new cybersecurity policy. I think a lot will change. And apart from this, when we talk about the cyber data in terms of compensation, as rightly, we were discussing this under section 43, the compensation alone can be granted by the adjudicating authority under the IT Act. Now, when we talk about that, again, I've dealt with those cases where some money has been siphoned off from account by either hacking of the payment gateway or a payment wallet or a bank account. OTP has been probably compromised. Either the bank is at fault, or the victim himself could be at fault. RBI has come across a lot of good policies on zero liability of consumer, zero liability. So in those scenarios, usually the adjudicating authority will be listening to these grievances and giving an order. Compensation will be payable. And there, what is important is how many people would even know about this authority. Not many. They will just go to a banking ombudsman, or they'll go to a reporter bank, or they'll go and file an FIR. They will try to, but hardly these cases really reach the final decision, and they're actually pursued in the right spirit. And a lot of awareness needs to be brought about in terms of this remedy being available to them. They are not aware. So compensations are granted. In the courts, we go if we want an injunction, or if we want, say, convictions in cases of cybercrime. So those are remedies which are available, but not many people are not aware. And therefore, I think I've done a lot of awareness campaigns again for various stakeholders, and I'm happy to participate here as well. My aim is just awareness here as well, because if we are not making people aware, we are not empowering them. And what is important is that this knowledge should go to every and anybody. It's like being digitally literate, and that's something which we can't afford to miss today in these times. And I hope whoever is listening to us today benefit from what we are discussing. I'm happy to share that I also set up an NGO called Fire, where we're just doing law enforcement trainings, and I've been a trainer to CBI and other academies for long. And I realized that not only that law enforcement judiciary needs this training, but also the common man and everybody, in fact. So that's what the NGO does, and I try to supervise or assist wherever I can. And I think through these kind of platforms, this information is being spread, and I'm happy to be a part again today as well. Hope that cyber crimes beyond will be more progressively addressing these issues which are right now pertinent. And maybe if this conclave happens next year, then we will have more answers in terms of personal data protection and how we stand as on that day, and how the fake news has been addressed, or how social media companies have become more accountable. And with the PDP, even the government is under, equally, this will apply to the government as well. So freedom of speech, defamation, issues of takedown will be, I think, more streamlined by then. So I'm quite positive, and I'm quite happy with the work the government and other social media companies are doing at this point, because this is the climax point. Actually, we are doing so much at this point, and especially during COVID, there was time to think about these issues. That's made people work, and I'm glad to be a part of that movement. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your words. Now over to you, Nipun sir. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. It's been indeed a privilege to be addressing the third Indian Law Conclave and sharing the space with such an esteemed panel. Much has been spoken about the statutory regime as it exists, insofar as the challenges that are concerned. But what I would like to emphasize is a different approach to the problem. I am going to look at and analyze the lacunae that exist in the current cyber law ecosystem on a very statutory level, in the sense that, to my mind, there are 5 current issues which have a tremendous potential in terms of them being reckoned as offenses. And I have seen from what we have been witnessing, especially the international clienteles that we have, is that the law as it exists currently is hopelessly inadequate to address each of these 5 issues. First and foremost, as has already been pointed to some extent by my esteemed panelist, Dr. Karnika said, is the artificial intelligence infiltration of privacy, which I think is something that I will only briefly allude to, because I think Dr. Seth has already spoken as to how exactly Puttaswamy and so many other line of judgments have now recognized right to privacy as an inherent integral facet of 14/19/21, and how artificial intelligence is now moving towards an area or an avenue where infiltration of privacy has become quite distressing feature. But I think what is also important is the second issue, which is artificial intelligence and data analytics. to predict and to influence what you call predictable behavior in the community, which is to say targeted advertising, political and election campaigns, using of metadata to sort of influence and predict the behavior of people so that they vote in a particular fashion or they purchase in a particular fashion, so that they are moving towards an area where it's a controlled environment. The third thing that I've been looking at is cryptocurrency transactions and a growing trend of crypto frauds. To my mind, crypto frauds and cryptocurrency transactions have seen a spike of close to 300% in the last 6 months alone. And Bitcoin has very recently released a survey in terms whereof Bitcoin says that the growing trend of cryptocurrency transactions has overshot by 300% combined in these 6 months, in contradistinction to the trading that used to happen in the last 10 years or so. And presumably it's of course because of the lockdown that has been imposed and people want to make quick money, because of which they are investing a lot in cryptocurrencies. But I think since there is no regulatory regime in place which will take care of the multifarious problems that crypto fraud and crypto trading, cheating and deceiving situations posit, I think it becomes very, very difficult to tackle it. Elaborating slightly further on what I believe is an inherent problem is that cryptocurrency trading has been recognized by the Supreme Court to be a trading which can be conducted, however, dehoves a statutory regulatory regime. Say, for instance, in United States of America, you have the Securities and Exchange Commission, which defines trading in cryptocurrency as a security for the purposes of trading, and therefore there is what you call a regulation in force. There are penalties, there is an overarching and extraterritorial operation of the law, and therefore it is very easy to track, trace, and hold people accountable. In India, there is a crisis, and therefore when you saw the entire litigation that made its way to the Supreme Court in 2017, 2019, culminating into the decision which was recently passed, one would see that for the longest time, there was a tussle going on between SEBI and RBI as to who is the authority which will in fact act as a regulator in that fashion. RBI, of course, takes cue and decides to pass an order banning it, which of course is struck down by the Supreme Court, saying what you do not know about or what you have very little information about, you cannot resort to an overarching umbrella banning notification, and therefore those notifications were struck down. However, the Supreme Court of India stops there. It does not go to the extent down as to how exactly will you regulate such mechanism, right? And regulate the currency trade. Now, if cryptocurrency is understood to be a movable property within the meaning of Sale of Goods Act, then that has a certain, then there are certain degrees of challenges, because immediately then you can also invoke IPC and try to bring it in the traditional net of the archaic provisions. However, what happens is if you also look at it in terms of security, then SEBI has the jurisdiction to take cognizance of crypto frauds. So I think as on date, there is a complete vague situation that exists, which has sort of helped and expedited the burgeoning increase of crypto frauds. And that is something that we as litigators were very surprised to see, the increase of crypto frauds that have been occasioning, of course, out of India and now within India. What also brings to me one of the issues that I would wish to highlight is deepfake content. And I think deepfake content is something which is in the next 10 years going to be one of the most disturbing situation to which the present cyber infrastructure has no recourse. If you, of course, go to cheating by impersonation or forgery or traditional IPC offenses, or if, of course, digital theft, etc., those provisions are hopelessly inadequate to even take a stock of what falls within the ambit of deepfake content. And I think I will take a lot of time to dwell on deepfake for the simple reason that I think this is going to be the singular biggest problem that India is going to face very, very soon. So to see what exactly is deepfake is and how is it different from something which is fake. Deepfake, I think, is not just a case of an isolated digital impersonation. I think it involves a more complex set of protocols targeted to create a fabricated profile of an individual or an event to further other agendas. So let me give you an illustration. It may be used in conjunction of leaking selective fake news, say about a minister, about a senator visiting a particular place in a distant country, with images flooding the social and digital media, while at the same time another video surfaces on the social media where the concerned minister is making a speech on a sensitive issue which is made with the intention to hurt the feelings of a religious group based in that city, which in turn causes a potential law and order problem. Now, deep fake videos are those videos which are hyper realistic manipulation of digital media and data, which employs artificial intelligence to fabricate not only audio but also video, text, location, or any other personal identifiers, including speech, facial expression, eye gaze, head tilt, angles at which you make your expressions, and any other behavioral attributes, which are unique to that individual. So deepfakes may be individual centric or that of inanimate objects such as places or venues. So you superimpose not just the image of a person in a location, but the entire person, his voice, his behavioral pattern, and his facial expressions into the venue to communicate or to create an idea that the person is situated there when the person was never there, and to make him say what he has not never said. And to that extent, I think deep fake has catastrophic implications. Now, why is this troublesome? It is troublesome because I think at the heart of a deepfake video is an elaborate and meticulous preparation of fabrication of, not just the facial expressions, the size, the measurements of the body, the laughing pattern, the smiling pattern, the pattern which gives every single, in fact, to the extent of every single freckle, laugh line mapped to accuracy. The voice is adjusted by the artificial intelligence by picking words spoken or recorded from different speeches or uttered in different contexts to create the impression that the person is actually uttering those words. Let me give you 3 of such examples. Instagram has this particular app called Jib Jab, where a person can superimpose their face on the face of a celebrity performing a famous musical video. And the app merges the face on the music video to create an impression of the person dancing and performing in the video. Now, of course, this is a commercial variation of deepfakes. But how deepfakes are actually being used is to analyze soft biometrics, as they call it, which records the tiniest of expressions and behavioral overtures spread across a few microseconds to generate highly accurate fake copy of a person. So now all of this may seem to be coming out of an avenue or an area where people may feel that this may become reality at a distant point of time. But let me give you real life instances of celebrities, of ministers, of politicians, and of corporate magnates. The most interesting part to me comes the famous Spectre incident of none other than Mark Zuckerberg. So in 2017, Zuckerberg video surfaced in Instagram where Zuckerberg was seen publishing or publicizing this particular app called Spectre. And Spectre gave this particular line: one man with total control of billions of people's stolen data, all their secrets, their lives, their futures. I owe it all to Spectre. Spectre showed me that whoever controls the data controls the future. When Mark Zuckerberg was confronted whether he had ever spoken this, he was in complete denial. He said, "This is never uttered by me." But the video was so genuine that it was immediately, I mean, it immediately became viral with a total number of 11 million hits within a period of 2 days. So we are looking at something which has possible uh, ramifications which the current regime is hopelessly inadequate to deal with. Another one which I will take from political avenue is the deepfake video of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, which made its way. Now, what happened was in Nancy Pelosi's video, the voice which was spoken was slurred, was minimized to an extent, or the playing speed was reduced to an extent as if to convey the impression that the senator arrived drunk or intoxicated at the convention. And therefore, that led to so many other allegations of impropriety, misconduct, coming to a public gathering intoxicated in an inebriated state, and so many other allegations that were levied. It was only later found out that the concerned speaker had never even spoken in the manner, and it was in fact a deep fake video which was created from some other event. So I think to that extent, uh, one of the other situation that comes to my mind is a deepfake video which almost started a war in an African nation. Now, what happened in this situation was Gabon, a country which is situated in the West African continent, the president Ali Bongo Ondimba had not made a public appearance since October 2018 on account of his ill health. And suddenly a video resurfaces on 31st December 2018, which leads to wide-scale speculation amidst critics who branded that video deepfake. Rumors sparked in the nation whether the president was dead or alive, and the military decided to carry out a coup in a bid to overthrow the government which was established by law. So let's look at the potential of deepfake from not just celebrity endorsements, but also to changing the dynamics of an entire nation. Deepfakes are something which are going to be potentially troublesome in times to come. And I think it is very, very essential for us to make our representations, because those are the kind of representations that we have already been giving to governments across the sectors, asking them to combat it, to tackle them, to find out effective ways to curb this menace. The most, the biggest hindrance which I feel is the rudimentary technologies that we are using to analyze content such as this. For instance, the evidence and forensic the analysis is completely rudimentary. It does not even begin to map with accuracy as to how to tell the difference between what is a normal video and a deepfake video. Because the artificial intelligence technology which is working on that deepfake video is also learning in the process. And therefore, it is constantly evolving itself to address this situation. I think it's also difficult to trace the actor, because these things usually come from anonymous accounts and become so viral that it becomes difficult to come to which was the starting point on which this video was uploaded. It is widely shared and it becomes very difficult to trace the actor. And if you cannot trace the actor, there's no chance of bringing them within the binds or confines of the law. I think third is restricting them. And to that extent, I think the Indian courts and the Indian judicial system has done a phenomenal job in restricting access, blocking ISPs, blocking DNS, blocking websites, blocking URL codes. But most of these have been in one or two areas. Say, for instance, trademark violations, intellectual property violations, in which the courts have been granting injunctions, restricting websites from carrying out, or the very recent Delhi High Court, not so recent, I mean 2017 Delhi High Court order, which had the effect of restricting 200 or 300 pornographic websites in one go, right? But I think deepfake content uh, will surpass any of these traditional websites because of their ability to fool a person to appear legitimate and genuine. So I think those are some of the areas that needs consideration. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views. Over to you, Sangita ma'am. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Your voice is not audible.
Is it audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm privileged to be the fourth speaker here. I have nothing much to say because most of the areas have been covered by the earlier three speakers. But I want to draw your attention in the state where I'm currently working and I'm based upon. A lot of international scenario have been told. But I would like to, those who are hearing me and those co-panelists, I would like to draw your attention to a small place that is situated in Jharkhand, which is known as the hub, of the cyber crimes in India. It's a kingpin. And many less has, in this panel, very less has been discussed about that small town. And this place is known as, I don't know many of you are aware of it or not, who have been working in cybercrime area. This is a small town, a small, very small town, has got no electricity. Electricity is there only for 5 hours. And if you travel by the train from Patna to Kolkata, the train whizzes past by and you get a feeling, an immediate feeling that it is a sleepy town. So how can it become the kingpin of India? That's the very debatable question. Now, this was also debated and we had a project, the Jharkhand High Court had made a project on this area because it is a lot of concern, not only to us, but also to the police, who Jharkhand police with the help of Delhi police and West Bengal police have been trying to nab the criminals, but as such till date, they have not made much inroads. The Delhi police wanted to, had busted a gang of 6 people recently that were running phishing scam. And they were operating, they came to know from Delhi, they were operating from a town, from a small place known Jamtara in Jharkhand. So anytime if you get a call and they post themselves as SBI manager, please ask them, are you calling from Jamtara? The reply will be yes. So this gang was exposed on a complaint of a victim who had called up from a toll-free number of Axis Bank from Google, which was later found to be fake. As no one had picked the call he received, therefore, he received another call from another number posing to be a bank employee. So most of this hacking of account, the main thing they say is that their bank manager had recently, 3 weeks back, I was going to be a victim, but suddenly I understood it was a fake call because they start asking you, they first say that your KYC is not, that's what they told me, the KYC is not, with the bank account. They wanted to to know my bank account number. And because they said that the KYC is not linked with your bank, so the bank account number will be on hold. And instantly they said it's an SBI account. And that surprised me because I don't don't have much of SBI account in Ranchi. So when I said Kolkata, so it brought them down. And then, of course, I said that I will lodge a case against you. I'll take your number and go to the cyber cell and lodge a complaint. And after that onwards, no call came. But here the victim was sent a link on which he was supposed to click to resolve his issue with the bank. However, he was duped of rupees 63,800, and soon he clicked on it. So Delhi police started investigating on the complaint, and they saw that it was through Paytm numbers in the investigation. Around hundreds of mobile phone numbers were found to be running in this device. So apparently no call was made on these numbers, but only some messages were reflected. So they started integrating into the matter, investigated, and the crime appeared to be a knitted and part of some vicious nexus running in some part of India. So that's how they started dodging in. And there were hundreds of accounts and mobile numbers were used to deliberately mislead the investigators. And these SIM cards, which they use, are fake SIM cards. It's not on any name, or they do not disclose their identity, nor they disclose the verification and all that. So it was on, but the details of the bank account in which the money was transferred were obtained, revealing important mobile numbers which were recharged through these bank accounts. And the moment the account is transferred, the job is done. So next day again, these youth, they are the youth within the age group of 14 to 18, dropouts from schools, they again, they make a call, they keep a companion standing there, and immediately that call is transferred. They ask for the OTP, and that is how people who are not aware of, they also allure them. So some public, and mostly many publics who are not aware of these cyber crimes, they are trapped and the money is transferred. So it's there I want to bring attention. I'm not talking on the international level, but in a state where I'm living, it is said to be the kingpin. This district, the small town, is said to be the kingpin of cyber crime, and it is happening every day. And if you cross that town, if you happen to visit Jharkhand, and if you, it's just around 160 kilometers from the capital of Jharkhand, if you travel to that small town, you will see that there are several towers. These towers, and there are several towers, other than towers, you won't see anything. So what they do is they trap the victim through these towers, and that's the easiest way of having money. So mainly these youths are unemployed, and instead of from the beginning the child becomes grown up, he is said to be he does, I mean, instead of going to school, he's taught how to get nexus to these crimes. And during further investigation, it was also found that not only they are residents of Jharkhand, but they have got a nexus with Mumbai, with Delhi, many places where cyber crimes are often committed. And some of them, they must have gone to Delhi or Mumbai. They did not get that job. They landed somewhere in a online, method. They learned the modus operandi, came back to the village, and they started operating. So this is where I was trying to bring attention, not in the international level, but in the domestic front, in my state where I belong, which is said to be the hub of cyber crime. And had information technology been so efficient, what was the point of the police, the cyber people, not cracking these cases? What happens is, surprisingly, they do go, they are punished, they go to the jail, and after some time they come out as if, it is a honeymooning place. The jail is a honeymooning place for them. They come out and again they start with it. So it is important here, and now I try to bring attention to the most important part is every crime, as we teach a law student, and every lawyer and judges know is every crime must have the requisite of mens rea. So unless mens rea is established, unless that guilty mind is established, it cannot constitute a cybercrime, no matter IT technology may bring it with lot of sections in it. I'm not going into deeper into IT technology, but trying to bring into the crime, the mind that works behind, because why the crime is there? One, he's not employed. Two, he doesn't even get 2 times a day to eat. So he has got no other option. He doesn't get a dignified job. He doesn't, the government is not providing job for them. So this youth who has a dream to have a Scorpio or a big car or a big house, and one of them who was successful as a hacker, he has now got an SUV. He got his two sisters married in a very high level, and and thereafter he committed, and thereafter he's now well-to-do off. And not only that, there is a nexus between the crime and that of the police. I refrain in saying that. Now, so for guilty mind, the IPC says there are certain terminology used in IPC. The words are dishonesty, fraudulently, intentionally, knowingly, having reasons to believe. So until these things are proved, you cannot bring that crime under the gamut of crime per se and cybercrime per se. So just mere publication of obscene material in cyberspace may not at all be a punishable without reference to guilty mind. So it's difficult if a complaint is lodged and just say that there are pornographic pictures, you cannot punish the offender. So, and this is the reason that obscenity and pornography are offenses which cannot be committed by a person who is not morally blameworthy. That's a very important point. Significantly, side by side, Section 43 of the IT Act, which contains very elaborate provisions against the contraventions, only has that leads to civil liability, as there's no requirement to prove of a guilty mind. So the same act, of course, if you put it under general IPC, that is dishonestly or fraudulently, will lead to penal liability. And that is the distinguishing part. These hackers have a guilty mind, but under the IT Act, it becomes a civil liability. But if you combine both the sections, if you bring it under the gamut of penal offenses, then only they can be penally punished. So and what is the range of punishment? It is from 2 years to life imprisonment. The cybercrime punishable with imprisonment of it is with not less than 3 years. They are non-cognizable and bailable, whereas the cyber offenses punishable with imprisonment of 3 years are cognizable and bailable, and the offenses punishable with more than 3 years are cognizable and non-bailable. Now, these punishments are in addition to the punishments under any other law, which may be applied in circumstances from case-to-case basis. Therefore, a person found guilty of a cybercrime under the IT Act and the IPC can be both punished, can be tried and both punished under both the laws. Although many of the offenses under the IT Act are generally compoundable, except for the offenses that provides punishment for a term that exceeds more than 3 years, but no offense committed against a woman and a child below the age of 18 years is compoundable in any circumstances. Therefore, cybercrime committed by an offender is not compoundable. By a repeat offender is not compoundable. Any cybercrime that affects the socioeconomic conditions of a country is also compoundable. So these are where I wanted to draw the attention. Now, evidences in the form of electronic data, whether primary or secondary, can be presented in the court only in a manner that is provided under the Indian Evidence Act. And therefore, non-compliance with the mandatory provisions in a manner of presentation, evidence will severely affect the prosecution's case. So that is why there are some handicaps, so far the proof of cybercrime is required. Now, there's another case is, I don't know if you, I would like to draw your attention that these crimes do not leave anybody. Why I'm saying so, the daughter of the former president, late Pranab Mukherjee, his daughter, Sharmishta Mukherjee, was also harassed by a man who posted sexually explicit messages on a Facebook page. I mean, she lodged a complaint with the cybercrime unit of the Delhi police. The police said lured messages were sent to a complainant through Facebook Messenger. The profile of the sender mentions him as a resident of Nauhati in Hooghly district of West Bengal. Ms. Mukherjee posted the screenshots of Facebook profile and of the messages he had sent her and wrote, "The person is completely unknown to me and he sends me dirty sexual messages last night, identifying the man as Parthu Mandal." Now, this is one of the examples I'm telling you, and it happens every day. Many a times when you open the Facebook page, we come across that our Facebook friend is saying that her or his Facebook is hacked. So these are numerous examples, normal examples that we come across every day. So cyber stalking is is growing in an alarming proportion in recent times. It involves unwarranted attention following the victim in cyberspace. It can be defined as a repeated acts. The most important thing is harassment, threatening behavior of the cyber criminal towards the victim by using internet services. So stalking does not involve any physical contact, but the way the whole process, how it is done, it becomes a threat, and in a way, as if it is an unwarranted physical contact and violence, it becomes a sort of a emotional, it traumatizes the victim a lot. Coupled with stalking is the bullying, which is very similar. It's a similar phenomena with children and to the most vulnerable group of the victims. Here again, the person, he bullies willfully with repeated harm inflicted to use the computer. And often some of the case studies is that one of the case study I'm saying about the mother of a girl, of a 16-year-old girl. She says that my daughter has been recently bullied by her so-called friends so badly that we had to take her out from the school and enroll her in a private school, which allows us to homeschool since it is such a distance to travel. So children are often bullied in such crimes. So what, since the time is going short, and I'm the last speaker, and most of it is has already been covered by my former three speakers. I don't have much to say, but I would like to draw your attention to the domestic arena where we are bullied. We often become, even we are educated, we often become victims of such harassment, especially in matters of asking for bank accounts. It's a day-to-day offense. When I thought of lodging a complaint, the cyber cell was closed because of the pandemic. And although it is, aggravating, it is going day by day, but sometimes we are helpless despite the laws we have in our country, which I still think today is not sufficient. Also, the enforcement agency cannot crack down. There's a dilly-dally tactics of the police because they do not know how to nab the criminals. Sometimes the criminals are also, because they make so much of money, they try to purchase the enforcement agency. So to me, I think this area needs a lot of relook. It is a very painful. Even Jharkhand High Court had made a project on cyberbullying and cyber crimes, wherein I was a part of it, but we couldn't get a solution to the problem. Thank you. I cannot, because I'm running short of time. I'm the last speaker. I'm sorry for that. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am, for sharing your views. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your views. Dear all, sorry we are unable to do the question answer session as we have overshot of the time a lot. So there will be no break. Before going to the next session, I would like to thank everyone. It was being a pleasure with you all. A thank to BDORG, Indian School of Law, Policy and Governance and Airness. I would like to express my gratitude to all the speakers for their presence and acknowledging us. Thank you so much once again. Thank
Thank you.
so now I would like to hand over mic to Priyanshi, who will be doing this moderating the session on emerging trends in real estate.